Bush Radio.
Bush Radio. Bush Radio.
Bush Radio.
Your real talk radio.
State Affairs with Edmund Obilo is live.
Let's come home, Dr. Mailafia. The unprecedented collapse in oil demand is having effect on the global economy. Will Nigeria survive it?
From a peak of at least $140 per barrel, we are now looking at something like $22 per barrel. Edmund, it is a nightmare scenario. The GMD of NNPC recently said that hundreds of oil tankers from our shores are wandering in the Atlantic Ocean with nowhere to go. People in the oil logistics business are already complaining that, in fact, they have no more place to stock excess reserves of crude. They have no more space. And what is worse, the Saudis are having their private war with Russia and Iran on trade matters. And Prince Salman, who is the de facto prime minister, has boasted that he is ready to cut the price of oil to $10 per barrel in order to undercut Russia. Because they allege that Russia has been encroaching on their traditional markets. So it's a trade war that all of us will end up paying the price for it. And with that scenario that we never planned for, the implications for financial management in Nigeria are very dire. We have to go back to the drawing board. We have to reprioritize. We have to cut back massively on the budget. We need to focus on just key priority essential areas, and those that are not essential have to go.
So what are these essential areas you're talking about?
For me, the most essential areas that are no-go areas is food, is manufacturing sector, it is health, particularly at this time, it is education, and also social transfers for the poorest groups. Otherwise, we can do without $50,000 Land Cruisers for members of the National Assembly. We can do with a lot of other things that are just an encumbrance on our public finances. And if I were president, I will order every head and department and ministry of government to submit to me a plan of areas for cutbacks and to remove waste in government.
Supply remains resilient, and the supply glut is so epic.
Yes.
Is it time to begin to cut production?
Well, I think we have no choice than to do that. Because if you produce, all these tankers are still in the sea, and if you produce more tankers will come and end up creating a massive jam in the high seas. I think OPEC needs to meet urgently, and they need to take a collective decision, and they need to also speak to Saudi Arabia, which has actually increased production and is boasting that it is ready to take prices down to $10. And officially, the international oil companies have told us that their cost price is $27 per barrel. But that is what it costs them to take the oil out of the ground. So you can imagine if we are selling it at $22 per barrel, we are selling it already at a massive loss. Why the heck would you continue to produce?
Let's look at an article published by CNN. The last paragraph reads, "Of course, the weak demand caused by the coronavirus pandemic won't last forever. Eventually, airlines will take to the air again and start buying jet fuel. American drivers will buy more gasoline as they get back to work. But by that point, the oil industry might not be producing as much oil as before because wells shut down. So today's oil glut may suddenly turn into tomorrow's oil scarcity, pushing prices far above $55 per barrel next year."
I think that could be a possible scenario. I mean, I know that with time, this evil wind will pass and life will come back to normal again, and people will go about their business. People will be traveling all over the world. The aviation industry will be back. Demand for fuel will come back, and production will go back. And if when China fully recovers, and already China is recovering very fast, so the demand will eventually come back. Whether it will reach 55 or 65, will depend on other dynamics, and it will depend on also if we do not have a massive recession. If we have a massive global recession, the aggregate demand will be weak. But if we continue to brave the storm and we overcome the storm, and we avoid a global recession, and then growth continues to improve, then there is a direct correlation between growth and aggregate demand expansion, and also the price of petrol. So we wait and see.
Will Nigeria ever learn any lesson from crisis like this?
Edmund, not with this government. They don't learn anything, and I don't think they are teachable. They are not capable of learning. They will not learn, and they will never accept to learn. Our best hope is to endure them until they go away. This specter of evil goes away, and then we have a government of civilized, enlightened people to lead us.
Are you saying we can never diversify our economy so that it will not be dependent on oil?
This is what we must do, but I do not know whether this government has the capacity to even think in those terms. I don't think they have capacity. There's no coherence in the heart of the government. And so without coherence, we don't have a sense of collective vision and a comprehensive plan for the country. If we really knew what we are about, this is the time to launch a massive economic diversification program and to do it seriously. Although oil is only 10% of our GDP, that 10% accounts for almost 50% of government revenue and over 90% of foreign earnings. So it is a very dangerous position to be in. We need to diversify to other sectors so that we have at least a more diversified economy that will give us extra streams of income in order to keep this economy going. But I doubt whether these people here that are in charge right now, whether they understand this. They're not teachable, they're not willing to learn, and they're not willing to bring in people who will help them to do the right things.
As we impose sweeping lockdowns that hurt millions of poor people in Nigeria, how do we ensure their survival?
We need palliatives. We need to support the most vulnerable group. My biggest priority would be the physically challenged, the blind, the lame, the very sick, the elderly, and then widows and orphans. Start with the most vulnerable group and then help others. The small-time artisanal workers who live on a day-to-day job. The woman selling akara, it's what she gets on a daily basis that she uses to feed her children and her family. We need to look out for those people, the most vulnerable. But I'm not happy with what is going on now. The Honorable Minister was questioned why the social transfers are only benefiting some sections of the community. And she said, no, they are not going to take it to the South. This is what she was quoted, though. I have no proof of it. That in the South, they have many relations abroad who send them money, who send them dollars. Therefore, it makes sense to concentrate only in the North. Whether she was misquoted or not, I don't know. But you see, it's a very dangerous path to be following. We are creating a sectional government with sectional agendas, and that is not the way to build a united and strong country. This is not the way of nation building. And secondly, we have a data problem. We haven't done a mapping and a survey of the geography and geomorphology of the poor and the most vulnerable. You need to know who they are, where they are, the nature of their challenges in order to target the help in a manner that is transparent, that is effective, and that is accountable. We haven't reached that stage yet. What we are doing is partisan, is sectional, and is based on narrow-minded ethno-religious agendas, and that is very regrettable.
And from what I have observed, the poor are already defined a lockdown order. They have to survive. They are out on the streets trying to eke out a living.
Edmund, we are lucky if they just disobey the orders. If it continues for another couple of weeks, they'll be going from house to house and with weapons demanding whatever people have in their houses to be released for them. If we act foolishly the way we are doing now, if we continue with our selfish, narrow-minded agendas, this is exactly what will happen. Because human beings must survive. Human beings must survive. They will do anything to survive. And let me urge all our people, all our listeners, please stay calm, respect the law, do what you are told to do, respect the rules of hygiene, avoid crowded places, use sanitizers, and even keep this dogonyaro near you, neem tree. The branches, the leaves, you can boil them, drink them, and do steam with them. They help, including shea butter oil. We hear that it helps. Look after your family, keep well, stay safe. Pray that God will allow this evil wind to bypass us.
Is it that we can turn back to our traditional medicine system to help ourselves?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I've heard lots of things. Like I heard this shea butter. The Chinese are buying it desperately and they are using it at this time. And some people believe that shea butter has some protective elements. Especially you rub it on your face and hands, you eat a bit of it. Shea butter is edible. That's jatropha oil. It's edible. And this dogonyaro or neem tree, because that is what hydrochloroquine sulfate is made from. So they pick that leaf from Nigeria, from Africa, and they use it to manufacture hydrochloroquine sulfate. So we have the raw material, we have the fresh thing, and then of course things like garlic, ginger, fresh garlic, you crush them together with lemon, and you drink some of it. All these things help. This is a time that we must of necessity fall back on our traditional systems. But I will say avoid self-medication, do it wisely and sparingly, and but above all, respect the rules of hygiene and do whatever is needed, whatever is required, and keep praying, because I believe God answers prayers.
Dr. Obadiah Mailafia, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you very much indeed, Edmund. Great nation, good people.
Bruce